Tunisia is one of those countries that looks small on a map, but becomes much larger the moment you understand where it sits. It lies in North Africa, between Algeria and Libya, with the Mediterranean Sea wrapping around its northern and eastern edges. Across the water are Italy, Sicily, Sardinia, and Malta, which makes Tunisia not just an African country, but a Mediterranean one. For thousands of years, this position made it a meeting point for traders, armies, religions, languages, and empires. Its coastline opened the door to Europe and the wider sea, while its inland regions connected to the Atlas Mountains and the Sahara. Tunisia's story is therefore not isolated. It is a story of movement, contact, conquest, adaptation, and survival at one of the most important crossroads in the ancient and modern world. Geographically, Tunisia is a country of contrasts. It covers about 163,610 square kilometers, making it modest in size compared with its neighbors, but its landscapes are remarkably varied. In the north, the eastern end of the Atlas Mountains shapes the terrain, bringing greener, more fertile zones. Along the coast, Tunisia has roughly 1,300 kilometers of Mediterranean shoreline, with beaches, ports, and historic towns facing the sea. Farther south, the country reaches toward the northern edges of the Sahara Desert, where arid landscapes replace the agricultural north. This mix matters because it influenced how people lived. Coastal communities traded, farmed, and built cities, while inland and desert regions connected Tunisia to broader North African routes. The country's natural setting helped create a society that has always balanced sea, mountain, farmland, and desert. Before the famous empires arrived, Tunisia was home to indigenous Berber communities. The Berbers, also known more broadly as Amazigh peoples, were part of the deeper North African foundation long before outside powers began shaping the coast. Their presence is important because Tunisia's identity did not begin with Carthage, Rome, the Arabs, the Ottomans, or the French. Those layers came later. The earliest social and cultural landscape was rooted in local North African peoples who adapted to mountains, plains, and semi-arid regions. Over time, these communities interacted with newcomers rather than simply disappearing. Tunisia's later culture became the result of blending, not replacement. Even when languages, religions, and political systems changed, the underlying North African continuity remained part of the country's story. One of the most dramatic turning points came when Phoenician settlers began arriving from the eastern Mediterranean. By the 12th century BC, they were establishing coastal settlements, using Tunisia's location as a strategic base for trade. Out of these settlements, Carthage rose to become the most powerful. By the 7th century BC, Carthage was not merely a city, but the center of a major mercantile empire. Its people, known as Punic, built networks across the Mediterranean, trading goods, founding colonies, and competing for influence. Carthage became wealthy because it understood the sea. It connected North Africa to islands, ports, and commercial routes. This success eventually put it on a collision course with another rising power, Rome. Tunisia, through Carthage, became central to one of antiquity's greatest rivalries. The struggle between Carthage and Rome helped define the ancient Mediterranean. Carthage was Rome's great rival, and their wars were not small border conflicts. They were contests over trade, power, and the future balance of the region. The Punic Wars ended in 146 BC with Carthage's defeat and destruction, after which Rome took control of the area. For the next several centuries, Tunisia became part of the Roman world. This brought new cities, roads, administration, and the spread of Christianity. Roman influence can still be seen today in ruins such as the Amphitheater of El Jem, one of the most striking ancient monuments in North Africa. These remains are not just tourist sites. They show how deeply Tunisia was integrated into the Roman Empire's economic, cultural, and religious systems. After centuries of Roman and later post-Roman rule, another major transformation began in the 7th century AD with the Arab-Muslim conquest. Arab-Muslim armies entered the region, and Islam gradually became central to religious and cultural life. This was not an overnight change, but over generations it reshaped Tunisia's identity. Arabic language and Arab culture spread, especially as Arab tribes settled with families and built lasting communities. Later migrations, including the Banu Hillel and Banu Sulaim tribes in the 11th and 12th centuries, accelerated the process of Arabization. By around the 15th century, the area of modern Tunisia had become largely Arabiized. This period gave Tunisia much of the linguistic, religious, and cultural framework that still defines it today: Arabic-speaking, overwhelmingly Muslim, and deeply connected to the wider Arab world. One symbol of Tunisia's Islamic heritage is Kairouan, home to the Great Mosque of Kairouan. The city became one of the great religious and cultural centers of North Africa. Places like Kairouan show that Tunisia's importance was not only political or military. It was also intellectual, spiritual, and architectural. Mosques, markets, old city quarters, and traditional souks became part of the landscape, shaping everyday life as much as rulers and empires did. Tunisia's towns developed a distinctive character: narrow streets, craft traditions, religious institutions, and layered urban spaces where trade and faith existed side by side. This heritage helps explain why Tunisia is often associated with ancient architecture and atmospheric old markets. The country's identity is built not just from big historical events, but from lived urban culture. In the 16th century, Tunisia came under Ottoman influence. In 1546, the Ottoman Empire established control, and Tunisia remained under Ottoman sway until the late 19th century. The Ottoman period added another layer to the country's political and cultural history. Tunisia was not simply absorbed into a single uniform empire. Like many Ottoman provinces, it developed local arrangements, regional elites, and its own patterns of administration. Its Mediterranean position continued to matter, linking it to Ottoman, North African, and European interests. Then, in 1881, France conquered Tunisia and turned it into a French protectorate. French rule introduced another major outside influence, especially in administration, education, and economic life. This is why French still has a role in Tunisia today, even though Arabic is the official language and Tunisian Arabic is the most widely spoken everyday language. Tunisia gained independence from France in 1956 and became the Tunisian Republic. Independence did not erase the past. Instead, the new country inherited a complicated identity made from Berber foundations, Phoenician and Punic memory, Roman ruins, Arab Islamic culture, Ottoman-era structures, and French colonial influence. Modern Tunisia had to turn all of that into a national story. Its capital, Tunis, on the northeastern coast, became the political and administrative center of a country named after it. The population, now around 12.1 million, is overwhelmingly Arab and Muslim, but Tunisia's history explains why its society also carries Mediterranean, African, Arab, and European connections. This layered identity is one of Tunisia's defining features. It is not a simple bridge between regions, but a place where those regions have repeatedly met and left traces. In the 21st century, Tunisia became globally known for a very different reason: revolution. In 2011, public anger over lack of freedom, lack of democracy, and the long rule of President Zine El Abidine Ben Ali erupted into the Tunisian Revolution. Ben Ali had ruled for 24 years, and his overthrow sent shockwaves far beyond Tunisia. The uprising helped catalyze the broader Arab Spring, inspiring movements across the region. For a time, Tunisia stood out as the most hopeful case. It held free multi-party parliamentary elections and later presidential elections. From 2014 to 2020, it was widely considered the only democratic state in the Arab world by the Economist Democracy Index. Tunisia became an example that democratic change in the region was possible, even if difficult. But Tunisia's democratic story has also become more complicated. Under President Kais Saied, the country experienced democratic backsliding. By 2022, Tunisia was rated as a hybrid regime, and by 2025 Freedom House no longer considered its elections free and fair. This shift matters because it shows how fragile political transitions can be. A revolution can remove an old system, but building stable democratic institutions is a much longer challenge. Economic pressure, political polarization, public frustration, and institutional weakness can all undermine democratic gains. Tunisia's recent history is therefore both inspiring and cautionary. It shows the power of citizens to demand change, but also the difficulty of protecting that change after the initial moment of revolution has passed. Today, Tunisia remains closely connected to the wider world. It is a member of major international organizations, including the United Nations, the Arab League, the African Union, the Organisation Internationale de la Francophonie, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the International Criminal Court, and others. It maintains especially close political and economic relations with European countries such as France and Italy, partly because geography makes those connections unavoidable. Tunisia also has an association agreement with the European Union and has been recognized as a major non-NATO ally of the United States. At the same time, it ranks relatively high in human development compared with many African countries and has one of the continent's higher per capita incomes. Tunisia's importance comes from this combination: ancient history, strategic geography, cultural depth, political symbolism, and a modern role that still reaches across Africa, Europe, and the Arab world. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.